I'm just in a little bit of walk this afternoon with Bailey, but this time he's got the schoolmaster, so I brought Rio along this time. So this morning with Bailey, he had the full-on play with Frank, which was great. They could go absolutely crazy, he could really get it out of his system. Frank actually put him in his place a couple of times, which was quite good. I mean, they really were playing rough, but Frank can give as good as he gets. And yeah, he did put him in his place a couple of times. Then I had Roscoe with me as well this morning, just to give a few little pointers on the right way to behave, meeting and greeting people, so Roscoe could show him that part of it. But just so he doesn't think that every single dog is nice and friendly and wants to play and will accept him running up to them and, you know, sort of giving them a little nudge and that kind of thing. I thought it best to bring Rio along. So Rio doesn't really play, okay? Rio's very much got a job to do, very serious, and when it comes to pups, when it comes to youngsters, he really doesn't suffer fools gladly. So he will be very, very clear to Bailey what he can and can't do, but he won't play. He won't jump about and do the play biting and all that stuff. That's not what Rio does. So it's good that Bailey gets to experience the other side of the interaction with dogs, which it's got it. Yeah, I can see you got your stick. So this is this afternoon's work. Now this morning when we were walking, we did meet quite a lot of people this morning because the weather was great, and there was lots of people out, and it was a really good mix of people and dogs, because most of them were off lead dogs. There was a few collies that were older, so a little bit like Rio really. They didn't play, they didn't want to play. They all had a little sniff of each other. Bailey asked them to play and they didn't. But he'd got Frank, you see, so he wasn't overly interested in other dogs because he got Frank to play with. So that's sort of why I kept Frank with me this morning, just so, you know, it keeps us together really. Gets the whole pack mentality strong, keeps him with me. So there was a gentleman with two terrier crosses. They were little feisty things, and he did have them on leads. They were quite feisty, and he was just worried that they would bite any other dogs, so that's why he didn't let them off a lead. And unfortunately that kind of behaviour and thought from the human, it does get transmitted down the lead to the dogs. So yeah, the dogs were acting out, he was tense, the dogs were acting out. It was a good mix, it's what I needed. So with that, he really took notice of what Frank and Roscoe did, which was basically run up to the dogs, stop, assess, get barked at. Roscoe tried to go in for a very gentle sniff. His head was down, his whole body was wagging. He was letting the dogs know that he was really coming in peace, you know, but they weren't having a bar of it. So Bailey basically stood back and watched. He watched the interaction with Frank and Roscoe, which was really, really good. You just watch here. Rio will start to nudge him and start to give him some checks. Very serious. There you go. So Bailey knows, yeah, it's not playtime. But he tried, you know. You've got to let this conversation happen. You've got to let the dogs do this. So yeah, I explained to the gentleman, absolutely fine, don't worry. The good thing is I just kept walking. I walked past the gentleman because he'd stopped, and I just walked past him, and as I walked past him, Bailey sort of walked with me, and Frank and Roscoe, and we all walked off together. So that was a good one, really good. A couple of spaniels we met on the way. They were just too busy in sniffing, doing their thing. They weren't overly interested in you know, in playing with Bailey, but they had a little run around together. But they were running more because they were sniffing. They were, you know, they were on the hunt, whereas Bailey just wanted to play. So their lack of interest in him really, even though they were running at speed, which triggered him, yeah, their lack of interest in him kind of registered, and again he just turned back to Frank. It was like, okay, I'll play with you instead then, Frank. So it's always good to get sort of close to other dogs that are running at speed. So the reason speed, you know, was humans running or on a bicycle or anything like that, anything at a faster speed than normal, the dogs would only normally go into a higher speed if it's sort of predator or prey related. So if there's a situation, that's the only reason they'd be running. So that's why they may sometimes react to somebody on a bike or somebody jogging. It is because of that reason, because they're investigating, saying, why are you going fast? What's the issue? What's the problem? So it is a case of getting them used to that, to let them know that there is no problem, there is no issue. So when you can mix a dog with another dog that is running very, very fast, as the spaniels were this morning, it was just a case of them realizing that it was just a case of, you know, we're on the hunt. There's nothing wrong, but we're on the hunt. We've got a job to do. So he saw that side of the socialisation as well. So he had a good all-round session this morning, really good. And like I say, just a little session this afternoon with Rio. And yeah, this is going really well. So from this, I'm going to just head down to the road and then just do some lead work. Just try and work on his strength on the lead. So, because he can be quite strong. So the way that I use the slip lead, most people that have had a consultation with, they know how I use the slip lead. I need to remind everybody that once I've shown you how to do that, and when I have your dog on a school day, that's how I do it. You've also got to do the same thing, because if we're not all, you know, going by the same book, it's not going to work. And yeah, Bailey has broke his lead. So the only way that lead's going to break if it's not being used properly by the handler. He's got to be walking at the side of you. It's got to be used correctly, especially when you've got a strong dog like this. Not only for the control part of it, but it's also for the communication part. You know, what we're establishing here is the leadership within the pack. And if your dog is stopping and sniffing and doing whatever he wants on that walk and crisscrossing over you, leading you, pulling you, he's in charge. And if he's in charge, your recall's going to be pretty crap, and he's likely going to be over the top when he meets other people, other dogs, and anything that's new or strange, because he's in decision-making mode, so he won't necessarily be paying attention to you. It's really, really important to keep the lead work correct, and as I've explained, there is a reason for it, and it all helps. It's all like this big jigsaw, all these little pieces. They all fit in. There's only so much I can do, so it also has to come from everybody else as well. So I'll just change direction. This way. Rio, this way. Don't wait for him. Rio, come on, don't wait for him. Thank you. There you go. So Rio will be waiting for him because he'll be rounding him up. There you go. So we've done a lot of that this morning, a lot of me just changing direction and just saying this way. Other than that, I haven't really spoken to him. So again, it's very much a case of don't really speak to them unless you absolutely have to, so that they don't get used to ignoring your voice. And as well as that, when they're off lead as well, they've got so much to sniff at, so much information. He's always rolling. So much information to pick up, digest, register, understand. The last thing they want is to hear your voice rambling on in the background. So for that reason, I only speak when I need to. Okay, I'm going to carry on with this. See ya.